don't... Well, here I go again. Not sure if this is going to record. I get very confused. Looks like it's recording. It's September 14th, 2017. I just did a short video of the room that I've moved into. I know a lot of people don't think it's a big deal what I have gone through, but certainly not compared to what's happened in Houston and Florida and the people who died. But I've been crippling and abused since I was 6 years old, and I'm 76. And all I've ever tried to do with my life was fight for human rights. And I have achieved a lot for a handicapped person. There's no question about it. I have a terminal brain disorder called Parkinsonism that was caused by canola oil. And and the disease itself is brutal torture. I take horrific, paralyzing attacks, immune deficiencies, infections spread through my body like a prairie on fire. And there are so many side effects to having this disease. And it's really causes me to be not only severely allergic, chemically hypersensitive, but it causes my brain to go, things will trigger my brain to go into flashbacks, and I'll relive the horror of my life over and over and over again. And I was trained as a model and trained to dance, and every step of the way, everything I ever tried to do for myself failed. I was a singer, and I lost my voice at the age of 12. I was a dancer, and I collapsed on stage in a paralysis attack at the age of 23. Or 24, I forget, I don't know. It's the year I met Elizabeth Taylor. And because I was trained as a model, which I also couldn't do because of my condition, I had to keep changing my career direction and cope with my limitations. And I would never have been able to work if I didn't look good. I was trained very young to understand that. We are a skin-deep society. And as long as I was very beautiful, which I was, and it was easy for me to camouflage and hide my disease, because when you're a dancer, you tend to move in such a way that you're graceful. And so I would hide the pain and hide the crippling. And of course, when I was paralyzed, I was catatonic. I couldn't go anywhere and couldn't do anything. And it's a whole nother story. Everybody from pimps and hookers and lesbian biker gang in Vancouver, and a millionaire in New York City, and a Jamaican young man, and so many people, total strangers. A mafia don took pity on me. The kind of pity I never got from my parents, my family, or my friends. All they see was that I look good. And I make little sick jokes, make people laugh. It's how I deal with it. I'm an optical illusion. What you see is not what you get. My insides are a mess. And it's both funny, and it's also reality. It's true. I'm not making any effort to look great at the moment, because this isn't about that. My time's running out, and I know that. And I've been robbed of the money that I needed to get a home. So I became homeless, and I've moved in with my boyfriend. And it's his brother that robbed me of the money. and my brother who robbed my mother of my inheritance and her money and her inheritance and her home and her properties. And I've written enough about that. If you're really interested in the details, you can look it up. But all I have left is to fight to change the laws in Canada so that no one like my mother or you or your child ever go through losing your home and your properties because the government thinks it's okay to sever joint tenancy in secret, and that you as a registered owner don't have the right to the knowledge that somebody has severed your joint tenancy, and you think you're worth X number of dollars, and you think you own your home, and after 70 years, you're 95 years old, you don't. And that contributed to the fraud, because from there, my brother knew, my mother didn't know, and I didn't know. He put his name on title to the matrimonial home and the properties. And he bullied us into letting him manage the properties. 2 of them were income properties. And I gave up a wonderful life in Wasaga Beach, where people cared about me. I had doctors, lawyers, biochemists, chemists, forensic scientists, thousands of people who cared about my human rights causes, to fight for children so that they wouldn't get my disease, to fight for food labeling laws so that canola oil and other toxic chemicals, and that we would have to have all ingredients on the labels in Canada, the same as the United States or Europe. And I'm not talking GMO, because that's a whole nother nightmare of fascism that belongs to Monsanto. And by the way, people, Monsanto has been purchased by Bayer to hide their name. So now all that disgusting, despicable work that they do, that perpetuate chronic illness with toxic chemicals in our food, genetically splicing right into the seed, pesticides to kill insects and rats and whatever. And quote unquote, the amount is not significant. It only kills the insects. It doesn't kill the people. Bullshit. Anyway, Bayer. Yeah, remember the name, people. Bayer. More ways to hide what we're doing to our children. And I was that child, you see. I'm your children's future. And I've always understood that. I didn't always know what my disease was or what it was caused by, but I knew that I was your children's future. And I've done everything I could with the help of Americans. And at the age of 70, I boycotted Canadian food, and I almost made it. I had 1 year pain-free. My body was beautiful. I could climb 2,000 feet with full energy up Gabriel Mountain. And then a tumor in my thigh did central nerve damage and took me right back 30 years. And I had to start all over again. I was paralyzed. I was in ice packs for a year. And in that condition, I discovered that my brother didn't pay the taxes on the properties. We faced a public auction. That was in 2014. My mother took a heart attack, and I couldn't function, couldn't read, write, or anything. And Doug McIsaac, that evil, dirty, rotten, filthy monster, took advantage of our situation, tricked me, lied to me, and he robbed me of everything. Home, land, money. And all I had left was some savings. About $50,000. Sounds like a lot of money when you're in poverty. But I've been saving for 16 years so that I could go to court to get the laws changed, to save you and your children. And now I can't do it. I've run out of money. I'm going to have to see a heart specialist. I'm having dizzy spells, and I'm in flashbacks. And that's another part of my disease, is that I get suicidal depression. And why not? Every day of my life, since I'm 6 years old, is a fight just to get to my feet. It's a fight to eat. It's a fight to live. It's a fight to just function. It took me 22 years to make a sentence, and I tried to write my biography to share with people so that they would understand what their children is going to go through. And a vice president from Warner Books was so kind. He called me on the phone to tell me that I could never get published and to stop trying because I'm just not famous enough. It was too late. All the people that cared about me, that were famous, and back in the day when I was worth something because I could make you rich and I could make you money because I was an investment analyst and I happened to be very good at it. When I lost my memory, I could no longer make you money, couldn't make you rich, so nobody cared about keeping me alive. I was no longer worth anything. And because of that was 34 years ago, and I did try to kill myself. I tried to drive my car off a cliff, and 3 feet from the edge, the car stalled and I couldn't get it started again. And I don't care if you believe this or not, but a white ball of light grabbed me and put me in the car, in the back seat of the car, because I got out of the car screaming and cursing God, and put me to sleep in a blanket of light pink. The white light turned pink. I happen to like pink. I don't know if that's the reason why it turned pink, but it turned pink. And the next morning, I came to, and the car started, and I was ready to back up and go over that cliff. Nothing had changed. And then I just thought I'd better check, make sure that I really was going to die. I didn't want to wind up paralyzed, and I didn't want to survive it. I wanted to make sure I was over and out and off this planet. And I heard children giggling and laughing, and I looked below, and there was 3 little children playing. This was at Scarborough Bluffs. It's a very famous suicidal spot. So I wasn't very creative in where I planned to kill myself. And I couldn't, of course, do anything. I couldn't bear to hurt children. And so I made a vow. No matter how much I wish I was dead, and I do wish I was dead, I don't enjoy my life much. And it's maybe part of the brain disorder, the suicidal despair that I suffer with. And I have to fight that constantly. I don't pretend to know. It's just there. It's part of my experience of my disease. And I have very fleeting moments of joy. Really few. Usually it's in the winter when I can get in the snow and I can get stronger and I can climb the hills on skis, and the cold brings down the pain in my body for some reason. It always has. Because spring, summer, fall, I'm very housebound, and I'm just never well. Never. Even on my best day, I'm not well. And our lakes are now so polluted I can't even go swimming in cold water because I'm in northern Ontario, and at least our water is nice and cold, and that used to give me some relief, but I can't even do that anymore. Full of blue algae and pollution and shit. And that's global warming, people, by the way. I know none of you believe that, but that's a fact. And our fish are full of cancer, tumors. Yeah, right, great. But all of that's reversible. You know, that was the thing that I thought I could be an inspiration, because at 70, I was able to reverse the brain damage. And I was able to learn how to operate the internet. And I finished writing my biography, even though it can't be published. The main reason it can't be published is because I was so retarded when I attempted to write it, that I don't know if it's my words or somebody else's words. You know, I read 1,000 books, searching for the right words and the right sentence to describe my life and what it was like. Thinking that if I did that, maybe parents would recognize themselves or recognize somebody they knew and understand that they've been poisoned. Because that's symptoms of being poisoned. So I have very few choices. You know, this is not the democracy that our government pretends it is. Far from it. So I'm going to sign off now. I ask for your prayers that I can get the help that I need to ban secret filing in Canada. That no one should have the right to secretly file unregistered without notifying registered owners. I don't care what the reason is. I don't care if you're executor. I don't care what it is. As a registered owner, whether it's a severance, a joint tenancy, or anything, you should have the right to be notified. I don't think you should have the right to sever joint tenancy without consent, which they do in Saskatchewan. And my lawyer doesn't agree with me. Well, he's young. He sees it from a different point of view. At my age and at my mother's age, when you put in that many years into a marriage, you feel that you really should own the goddamn house. I'm not talking the income properties. You can split that if you like, but you shouldn't have the right to do anything without their knowledge. That's for sure. That's got to be the bottom line. And you certainly shouldn't have the right as an executor to take ownership. Yeah. Imagine, when you make a will and you decide somebody to be your executor, in Ontario, they have the right to take ownership to all your properties. Yeah, isn't that wonderful? And in secret. That's considered a fair, democratic way to do things in Canada. Not in Alberta, and not in Manitoba, and not in Saskatchewan. But in the rest of Canada, that's the way we do things. And it isn't a democracy, kids. And don't think it is. And it never will be. If there's anybody out there that's young and wants to go into politics and wants to become a lawyer, get out of Canada. Because you're never going to get anything changed here. The parliamentary system doesn't allow for it. And I had all those opportunities to be in New York. Americans, to this day, help me. I'm alive because of Americans right now, today. My mother lived to 98 because of Americans. Yes, they have their problems, but they are a democracy. And Canadians just don't understand. Our judges are there for life and they're completely corrupt. Our court system is completely corrupt. Our parliamentary system is completely corrupt. And no, I'm not proud to be a Canadian. I'm just proud to have survived it, except I'm not so sure that you would call what I am today survival. I'm not saying I haven't done some good with my life. I brought better gas mask equipment to the military. I gave talks to the generals and the men in the military and begged them to fight for their own rights. And I gave them the science and the research on what they were facing. And I contacted the Veterans Association in Virginia in 1990, and I think it was 1990. And anyway, they sent up some lawyers to help our people. It's the kind of thing that Americans do, you know. and we don't hear about that. And the Steelworkers Union, U.S., not Canadian. Canadians didn't give a shit. But in 1989, I was able to give scientific research, their own American science, on disease that are caused by toxic chemicals. And they fought for cleaner air in the mines and better gas mask equipment. There's MSA is the best gas mask on the planet, quite frankly, for industrial use, mining, and is what keeps me alive. The latest one is called the Advantage, and it has a lot of advantages. It's lighter, and it fits around the face. The seal is tighter. It's a wider seal, but nothing against my old one. I love it. It's just a little heavier, and it has more metal on it. And I always felt that when I was skiing, particularly if it took a really bad fall, I felt more comfortable in the one that was heavier and stronger. But truth be told, I'm quite sure the Advantage is not going to, I don't think it breaks very easily. It's just my own little paranoia, because if some skidoo goes by and I don't have a gas mask if I have a gas mask that's busted, I have a very short window. And I go into anaphylactic shock right away, and I go into toxic shock, and I'm paralyzed and cardiac arrest, and I die. I've got about 20 minutes tops to pull out. And I can't use drugs because I'm chemically hypersensitive, so I have to find a way to detox, which I have done, and I put all that information on my websites. You can look it up. I'll post it on my videos. And the last thing I want to say is if we didn't have enough problems on the planet, what is wrong with you, YouTube, that now all of a sudden you are blocking sharing to Facebook, and you're blocking sharing to Skyrock, which is really supported by the military, which I totally support. I don't support the wars, but I support the military. I think you will understand what I mean by that. And what the hell's going on? Are you crazy? You want to cut off the ability for people to share the videos and to expand? You're going backwards. Or did you sell YouTube to somebody else? I mean, what the hell's going on? I don't know. But it's just nuts, totally nuts. And this video is already 22 minutes long. It's too long, and I don't think anybody gives a shit. But anyway, if you are out there and listening, if you're Canadian, be careful. This isn't the democracy you think it is. And I hope before I die, I'm able to ban all secret filing on registered ownership. That's the only thing I have left to live for. It doesn't look like that's going to happen right now, but it took me 22 years to find a way to reverse my brain damage. What the heck? At least I've got it out there, and maybe somebody will realize that I represent hundreds and hundreds of thousands and millions of people. So it isn't just about me. In fact, it's not about me at all. And it isn't about money. That's the one thing I learned when I was worth a lot of money and wound up on the streets and nobody cared if I lived or died, when I could no longer make money. I made a vow that I would never work for money again. That my value and my worth is not going to be about money. I'm not saying you shouldn't make money, but think carefully about what you do with that money. Put your money where your mouth is. And we're on this planet for a very short time, truthfully, if you look at our history. You know, your lifespan is really, really a blip. So try and do something good with it. And that's what I've tried to do. And God bless everybody, young and old, rich or poor, whatever your color, whatever your culture. God bless. Over and out.